The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the bonus show. I want to start with the story that I tried to get to yesterday. I was going to sort of run out of time to really do it justice, and I want to dig into it today. It relates to transgender athletes and the leagues in which they are allowed to compete. And the news from the last few days is that USA Powerlifting has banned all transgender women from competing as women, even though a trans powerlifter in Minnesota recently won a state championship with a different association, not USA Powerlifting. Her name is JC Cooper, who's a trans woman, applied last year to compete in USA Powerlifting's Minnesota event. Her application has been denied. And what the league says is that male to female transgenders are not allowed to compete as female in our static strength sports, as it is a direct competitive advantage. There was a follow-up statement. Transgender male to female individuals having gone through male puberty confer an unfair competitive advantage over non-transgender females due to increased bone density and muscle mass from pubertal exposure to testosterone. Bone density is one of those that gets into kind of dicey territory because it starts to get into some kind of debunked pseudoscience. But I think that this is an issue that has become taboo to discuss frankly, and I don't really think that it should. I mean, listen, I have been advocating for LGBT rights for an extremely long time on this program. I believe that we should not discriminate against transgender individuals under the law. I believe that the bathroom bills are a joke. There's no issue. I don't think that if you're transgender, you should be not allowed to adopt children in the same way that if you're a gay couple or a lesbian couple, you shouldn't be not allowed to adopt children on every single issue. But there are physical differences between male and female members of Homo sapiens, just like there are physical differences between male and female members of many species. And I've not heard a good argument for allowing male to female transgender individuals to compete in athletic events against individuals born biologically female. There simply would be an advantage in many sports and activities. If there isn't, then have at it. I mean, think, for example, about chess, right? Chess is a sport, a game where there's been a lot of controversy around why are there separate tournaments or why are there separate designations between simply being a grandmaster and being a women's grandmaster? And there are some pretty good explanations that are not sexist. In fact, they're kind of the opposite. So like one example would be there are fewer women who play chess. And if they were competing for grandmaster status alongside men, by nature of there being so many more men who play chess, there would be almost no female grandmasters. And thus that would be a further disincentive for more women and girls to get involved in chess. So by having a separate category called Women's Grandmaster, you can actually now have something more visible that girls and women who want to play chess can aspire to. Fine. But there would be no reason why a male to female transgender individual or a female to male transgender individual would be restricted from playing for either the Grandmaster or Women's Grandmaster title that aligns with their sexual identity. There's no physical issue in terms of conferring an advantage in that sense. Who could possibly have a problem with that? With weightlifting, with some other sports, there is a physical difference, and I don't think it should be taboo to talk about that. I don't really have a strong position one way or the other in the sense that I just don't really think about this issue that much. I find myself busier with many other political issues, but it seems to me that it would be very reasonable to say, without advocating for discrimination under the law, without advocating for anything else, period, that would be discriminatory against transgender individuals, the question of male to female transgender individuals competing in a field of women born biologically female seems like it's something that we have to figure out, and it's not by its nature discriminatory to say that. I've said this before on the show, and I will say it again. Send me the best possible argument for allowing male to female transgender individuals to compete against biological females in sports. I'm totally open to having my mind changed. From everything that I've read and seen, it seems like a perfectly reasonable discussion to be having, and I'm completely open to good arguments in favor of allowing that participation. Okay, we are having so obesity is a problem, a big problem in the United States. It's a growing problem in Mexico as well. But there is a new report out that shows that obesity rates are becoming a particular problem in terms of cancers in millennials. The obesity-related cancers are rising the fastest among millennials, according to a new study. This is the looking at 12 cancers, and rates for 6 of 12 cancers related to obesity have been increasing in successively younger generations of adults, with the sharpest increases in the youngest age groups. This is a study from the Lancet Public Health. It's not exactly clear what is contributing to this. There are a number of factors that are sort of out there. One is diet. Diet can be related to economic circumstances. We know that millennials, between crushing student debt, flat wages or decreased wages, inflation adjusted over a long time, we know that millennials are in increasingly financially precarious situations, and we know that that correlates with obesity. So that is one element of it. There's a financial angle. Number two, sedentary lifestyles. We know that that is an issue, and with more and more millennials working in what we would call sort of information type jobs that can be conducive to sedentary lifestyle, that could also be a factor. But researchers are continuing to analyze that. In the 20-year period that was looked at, there were about 15 million new cases of 30 different types of cancer. For at least 8 of them, including smoking and HIV-related cancers, incidence rates actually dropped. But 6 obesity-related cancers, colorectal, endometrial, gallbladder, kidney, pancreas, and multiple myeloma, there was a steady increase in incidence over the years, with the largest increases in young adults. Still very early, still learning a lot about this. It's obviously horrible. It is really difficult in general in cancer research to attribute particular causes definitively in many cases. So even though these are obesity-related cancers, the question is, what is it that is driving obesity among millennials? And that is more of an open question. Advertising is being mentioned, and I think that that is interesting because very often when we talk about public health phenomena, the psychological marketing cultural component can be missing. We just sort of say, here are the diets that people are eating, or here is an economic factor that is causing people to eat foods that are not calorie dense, and people are eating a lot of them and consuming a lot of, or not nutrient dense rather. And that's what's leading to poor diets. But there's a huge marketing component, and that is being examined by the Lancet report in terms of whether millennials are more susceptible to advertising for certain types of foods that would increase obesity. But needless to say, it's not, these are horrible, horrible numbers. And we've been, for 10 years on the show, we've been covering this advancement in the treatment of cancer, that advancement in the treatment of cancer. And the treatment side is huge and it's important, and we'll keep covering it. But the prevention side, the more we know about causes, root causes, the prevention side has to be as big, I would argue. That phrase, an ounce, what is it? Like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, or something like that. I hope I'm not butchering that. Definitely true when it comes to obesity-related cancers, for sure. Okay, I've said that I'm not going to talk too much about the New England Patriots Super Bowl win on Sunday because the audience generally doesn't care about that. But I do have a sort of sidebar story today, which is that there are a bunch of Patriots players who are already indicating that they have no interest in going to the White House to be met by Donald Trump, to be congratulated by Donald Trump. Now, this is happening. I know people have been tweeting me saying, David, you won't talk about how the Patriots owner just said Trump is doing a great job. I'm talking about it. So on the one hand, you have a lot of Patriots players who are, I am glad to say, saying they have no interest in going to the Super Bowl congratulatory event at the White House that has become a sort of tradition with Donald Trump. On the other hand, you do continue to have Patriots owner Bob Kraft, who is a buddy of Trump's, talking nonsense about Trump's doing a great job. And a few people who tweeted me said, this is out of self-interest. Bob Kraft just benefits from Trump policy. I don't even know that it's that cut and dry and direct. I think a big part of it is just Bob Kraft is friendly with Trump and he's supporting him. From what I've been told from people who are sort of in the circle of the Kraft family, they are not necessarily as big on Trump policy. They're just friends with Trump, and that a lot of it is coming from that. It's not a defense. That doesn't make it any better, by the way. But that is a piece of it. But we'll see ultimately what happens with the Patriots. I have a hard time imagining that Tom Brady is going to turn down a visit to the White House, but the more Patriots players that do, the better. And it is very embarrassing that both Bob Kraft and I think Bill Belichick and Tom Brady have all had different degrees of praise or just being spotted with the MAGA hat. I think it was Tom Brady a couple of years ago. It's quite embarrassing. There's no question about it. I'm doing what I can to separate the sports from the politics of it, but it gets pretty difficult. But soon Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are going to retire, and then the Patriots will go back to being terrible for a very long time, and none of us are going to have to worry about it at all. If you are listening to the bonus show or watching the bonus show early enough in the day, if the State of the Union hasn't happened yet, State of the Union address hasn't happened yet, join me on YouTube live for analysis and commentary, and then I will likely open the phone lines for people who want to call in and give me their thoughts about the State of the Union address. That's all tonight. And if the State of the Union address already happened and you're just now checking out the bonus show, it will be archived on YouTube, and I hope that you will check it out.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.